Well, hey, welcome. Pastor AJ, another episode of Rocky Beyond the Walls here at Rocky Mountain Church. And thanks for joining us. Thank you for walking with me through this Better Than series we've been walking through before we got to Christmas. Our Advent series was really the start of marching through the Gospel of Matthew. And we're going to continue to do that throughout the next 18 months. But there's going to be some pit stops along the way where we're going to take themes from the book of Matthew and press into them in more detail. And right now we're looking at the fact that Jesus was the better fulfillment, right? He was the better Moses. He was the better covenant, the better high priest. This next weekend I'm talking about how he is the better Adam. And so we're just marching through thematically some things that I think Matthew, as he writes to a Jewish audience, hopes that this Jewish audience considers Christ to be the Messiah. And I want to give you an understanding of that in a deeper way. And so thank you for joining us. This last weekend, I took you through a comparison between the suffering Job and the suffering Christ. And there are many things that we can relate to in the suffering of both of them. But one ultimately suffered for all, including Job's sins, and that is our ultimate suffering servant, Jesus Christ. I took you to Isaiah 53, a familiar passage when you think of Christ being seen in the Old Testament. You know, and as we approach Easter here slowly over the next few weeks, I just want you to dwell on the goodness and the riches and the workings of Jesus. And I think this coming weekend, when we go all the way back to where it all began, in the garden, Genesis 3, how is Jesus the better Adam? And how is Adam a picture of who Jesus was to come and be and do as our Messiah? So for some of you, it's stuff that you celebrate, you believe in, but we always want to have spaces in our calendar where we look back, we remember, we refresh, ultimately because it aligns with our vision, right? We want to elevate our awe for Christ in all things for all people. And there's no better way to do that than to celebrate the workings of Jesus in our life and in our community here at Rocky Mountain Church. Just a few announcements for you. We do have Easter services are ready to go. We're going to host our Good Friday service at 6 p.m. here at Rocky. And then we have 2 Easter Sunday morning services, one at 9, one at 11. The 11 o'clock we'll have our Rocky Kids happening downstairs, our Discovery Land curriculum time. So if you're a family and you want to take advantage of that, please come at the 11. Pastor Matt's working on a cool photo booth for you and your family, and we're looking at just this, once again, awesome opportunity, right, to dwell on the riches and the workings of Christ. Our Good Friday service will be very, very solemn, reflective. We'll be working through music that brings us to the feet of the cross, but doesn't move us towards an empty tomb. We're going to look at kind of the narrative from when Jesus sat with his disciples in the upper room until that stone was pushed and the tomb was sealed. And Good Friday is designed for us to dwell on the workings of Christ, be thankful for them. We'll come to the table together and we leave mourning but with hope. And so I hope that you can join us Easter week for those service times. Another thing I have for you, and I'm super excited about, is Dr. Joe Rigney's new book, Leadership and Emotional Sabotage, has just come out, and I've received some copies for our staff to work through. And I'd like to invite you to join me this summer in my community conversations slot to have a book club. And we're going to get together once a week, and we'll work through a chapter a week. It's actually a short book, but here's just a little bit of an idea of what this book is about. It says this: "Who are you? when the teeth come out. For every true act of leadership, there is an equal and monstrous act of sabotage. Our leaders have been entirely routed by the agitated and the anxious. These emotional tyrannies manifest themselves in local libraries, HR cubicles, elder meetings, and at your Thanksgiving dinners. In this book, Professor Joe Rigney seeks to recover the nerve of old that steadied leaders to make tough calls, the nerve that braces them when sabotage comes, because it will, the nerve that has more fun than its enemies. Cheer up. There's no way out but through. I love how Joe writes. Joe has been a pastor. He was the head over Bethlehem Seminary. If you know of Bethlehem in Minneapolis, that's John Piper's seminary, where he is still the chancellor there. And Joe is now in Moscow, Idaho, pastoring and writing. And I think this is probably the most timely book on leadership in the culture we live in. We're in an election year, emotions are high, and we need to understand what it is to stay on the pavement, how to deal with emotional tension and outrage. And so I'm excited to work through this book with our staff. And then I invite you, if you're interested, email me, call me, and I'll let you know the price of the book. But like I said, I think we're dealing with maybe 6 or 7 chapters here, you guys. So like I said, it's not a huge time commitment. It's not a huge read. It's 6 chapters, and I'd love to work through this with you and have some great dialogue. So I do hope you're having a great week, and I hope that we see you here on Sunday. God bless, and we'll see you soon.